2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I just want to make sure he was in. I just want to make sure everyone was getting all the information they needed. I counted chair. Yeah, and thank you for the patience with me as I'm learning this class. Next year it'll be smoother.
I found one back there.
join us.
Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome to the Modern Woodman Speech Contest. My name is Laura Houston, and I am a teacher on special assignment in the Office of Curriculum and Instruction. So we were here Monday for semifinals. We had 12 students speak on Monday. 6 of those moved on to today. Tuesday was the second round of a separate group of 11 students who spoke, and 6 of those students are here today. And even before that, there were contests at each school site. So you all have been through so much to make it here today. Let's give them all a round of applause. Okay. So a little background information about the Modern Woodman Speech Contest. This contest has been going on for 60 years, more than 60 years. And it really does give our students a valuable, not only academic experience, but a personal experience as well. This contest is an important event in many schools across the entire nation. So it's not just Anaheim Elementary, but school districts across the entire nation are competing with the same event. And I'll just review the theme because we might have some new members in the audience today who didn't hear or weren't here on Monday and Tuesday. So this year's Modern Woodman Speech Contest topic is what freedom means to me. Freedom is an important concept that has an impact on our daily lives, even if we are not aware of it. Freedom is viewed and defined differently by different people. Before writing their speeches, students were asked to consider the following thought-provoking questions. 1, how is freedom defined? 2, what does freedom mean to you? 3, what types of freedom do you have? And how do they affect your everyday life? How is freedom gained or lost? And finally, which freedom would you miss the most if it were taken away? So, the students wrote essays, you had rough drafts and final copies, and you practiced in your classes, and now you are here for the finals. So, I wish all of you good luck today, and before, as I told you, this microphone is not amplifying their voices. It's for our live stream that's happening right now, so hello everybody out there in Anaheim. So you will have to speak loudly and amplify and speak to the very back of the room. Do any of you have any questions at all before we start? Yes?
What happens if we win this round?
What happens if we win this round? I do have trophies. We do not move forward after this round, but I have trophies for first, second, and third place. Yeah, that's a good
I was
question.
told that we were going to do it in front of someone else.
Oh, yes, there is. So the winner would be able to, will be invited to speak at a school board meeting and give your speech. That is true. Very good. Okay, do you have any other questions? So, no? So I suppose we're just ready to start. Okay. Judges, do you have any questions? Feel free to just grab it if I've forgotten something. Please make sure your cell phones are turned off. I'm sure they already are. And I think the question before was that you can take pictures and video of your own child. That's fine, of your own child. Okay, so we are going to start. Oh, and one more thing. We do not reveal the name or the school until after the judges have deliberated. So we'll have a chance for the students to introduce themselves afterwards and take pictures afterwards. So with that, we we will start with speaker number 1. Hold on just 1 second so I get my timer ready, okay?
What is freedom? Have you ever thought of it? Google defines freedom as the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without having the thought in mind that someone is going to harm or punish you because of what you did. And did you know that in 1814, Francis Scott Key wrote the national anthem and sang "The land of the free and the home of the brave," and we have been singing it ever since. I love these definitions, but I want to share my thoughts on freedom. Freedom to me means that an American soldier that fought for our country and risked his or her life so that I can go to sleep and wake up under a blanket of freedom. That freedom is a way of life for those of us who are blessed to live in this great country that we call the United States of America. Some of the freedoms that I get to have are the freedom of speech, the freedom of press, and the freedom of religion. The freedom of speech means for me to be able to say whatever I want about anything or anyone without getting in trouble. For an example, one man on the side of the road can talk about what he believes in without getting in trouble, while another man on the other side of the road can talk about how he hates the President of the United States. Those two men are using their freedom of speech to be able to express how they genuinely feel inside. The freedom of press means for any journalist to be able to say whatever they want on a news report without being controlled by the government. For an example, let's say CNN is doing a report on how there were 5 car accidents on the 91. Without that freedom, the government would control that news report and say that there were no car accidents on the 91. The government is lying to its own people and controlling everything said. Now, the freedom most important to me is the freedom of religion. The reason this is the freedom most important to me is because the fact that I get to believe in something I want to believe in without being in fear of being punished for practicing in something that I hold dear and love. Did you know that people all over the world are being kidnapped, tortured, and even killed for practicing in something that they want to believe in? Freedoms can be gained or lost through the power of the people. Yes, we the people have the power to lobby Congress, put laws into effect, and elect government officials. If these freedoms were taken from me, I would be incredibly mad and in great sorrow. Because of not being able to express how I genuinely feel inside, I would definitely try and fight for these freedoms to be restored. I know that every single person in the United States has freedom. Do you want to know how I know this? I know this because of the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Yes, these documents were created by our founding fathers to protect the people of the United States. They had a vision to form a perfect union and to establish justice. Wow. Because of this, we need to be grateful and that we may have a mindset with appreciation because of everything that we have. Now ask yourself, what would you do without freedom? Thank you.
2 is taking the stage.
Morning, everyone. The 44th President, Barack Obama, said, "We have to uphold a free press and freedom of speech because, in the end, lies and misinformation are no match for the truth." In this quote, the former president is picturing a free press and freedom of speech as the truth. However, to know that freedom of speech and expression is freedom we are most lucky to have, we have to know about all of our freedoms first. Our freedoms are meant to protect us, the governed, and not the governors. One of our 4 freedoms is the freedom of religion. This freedom lets us believe in where we want. In my religion, Hinduism, we sometimes wear red thread on our wrists or a red dot on our forehead because we went to the temple or had a festival. One of our fundamental human rights is to speak up for ourselves, which is supported by the freedom of opinion. This freedom is also known as freedom of speech, expression, thought, belief, press, and other media of communication. The freedom of the press, one part of freedom of opinion, keeps the government in check. For example, during the court case New York Times Co. versus the United States could not stop the New York Times from publishing confidential information about the U.S.'s actions during the Vietnam War. The next freedom is the freedom of peaceful assembly. This freedom lets us march, gather, protest, and express. I personally love this freedom because it goes hand in hand with freedom of expression, my favorite freedom. This freedom has enormously impacted history, like during the peaceful salt protest led by Mahatma Gandhi in India. The final freedom in this speech is the freedom of association. This freedom makes student life more enjoyable. At my school, I've been associated with tons of clubs and met many other students during recess. The freedom that I think is most important is the freedom of speech and expression, as without it, I would not be able to stand up for myself. One time I used my freedom of speech and expression is when I wrote a letter to the principal 2 years ago. It was about how the older kids tried to take advantage of being older and were not sharing the soccer field. As stated by Index on Censorship, freedom of speech and expression is a fundamental human right. It reinforces all other human rights, allowing society to develop and progress. This quote is saying that we need freedom of speech and expression to make changes in our community. This shows how important freedom of speech and expression is. I've sometimes seen the flag being put up and being taken down at school. This is an example of freedom of speech and expression. When we cheer, we're expressing our ideas about a thought, a group, or a person. Writing our argumentative essay and sharing our ideas with our partners are 2 other ways in which we communicate. I've seen people posting videos on various online platforms, such as Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. If a country does not have freedom of speech and expression, then the government is called a tyrant because we are not allowed to do anything against them. Without freedom of speech and expression, we would not be allowed to vote or protest, naming only a few. After learning about all of our freedoms, I believe that freedom of speech and expression is a freedom that should be stood up for and exercised when needed. You should help stand up for our freedoms. Thank you.
As Americans, we are free to do what we please. But have you ever taken the time to think about other countries where their government may rule differently? There are still countries that restrict their people from basic liberties and civil rights. We should be thankful for the life we live without something or someone stopping us. Every day around the world, people are getting arrested or prosecuted for things that they shouldn't be even getting into trouble for. Therefore, what does civil freedom mean? According to the Oxford Dictionary, it means the unique ability to act wisely, properly speak, or naturally think without social restraint, absence of subjection to foreign domination, and the state of not being imprisoned or enslaved. The fundamental freedoms that we undoubtedly have are to instantly access valuable information freely. Sadly, some countries don't want to unveil their darkest secrets about what happens in their government, so they chose to ban certain websites or have censored internet that can be tracked, monitored, and restricted. Another right that we have is the freedom of religion, which is important for a number of reasons. Allow me to tell you a quick story. My parents grew up in Romania, East Europe, and since 1980, the lives of Romanians changed drastically. Laws were passed and strictly enforced. Food rationalized, liberties taken away, people incarcerated and sent to camps to work and live in unthinkable conditions, which the majority never survived. During this time, my grandma embraced Christianity and decided to become one. Since the regime did not like any type of religion, she was asked several times to stop in a threatening tone. Although fearful for her family and aware of the possible terrible consequences, Grandma quietly stood up for her beliefs. This brings us to the third freedom that we have, the permitted freedom of proper speech. At the time before the Romanian government changed the rules, citizens were not granted the right to speak freely. If there was something that you traditionally thought was wrong, then anyone couldn't say anything. Doing so would most likely get a possible sentence to jail for as long as they genuinely wanted, or in some potential cases, death. It would probably just depend on their country government established rules. If the freedom of speech was taken away, then that is one freedom that I would really miss the most. The reason is because many people today have ideas or creativity that can be shared to the world to inspire someone to do what they never thought was achievable. I can't imagine a world that doesn't let you say or do if you choose, and I don't think anyone can. In conclusion, let's not take our freedoms for granted, since it is vital for our existence. We should be thankful for all the sacrifices made. That being said, I'll leave you with the question, what are you planning to do with your freedom? May God bless the United States of America.
Freedom. Easy, right? Freedom. 7 letters, 1 word. It may seem like freedom is like every other freedom. But no, freedom is one of those words that has many different meanings to very distinct people. Sometimes us human beings don't understand the freedoms we have until they are taken away from us. Firstly, to me, freedom means that you can do absolutely whatever you want, whenever you want, without being forced to act or think a specific way. For example, a type of freedom most of us have is freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is when you have the right to express yourself and get your opinion across. Think about it. We use freedom of speech every single day. We don't fear talking or giving ideas because we know we won't get punished or in trouble. Although we have all these freedoms, people abuse the freedoms we have, especially freedom of speech. They think just because they have the right to express themselves, they can say all their thoughts, even if they're negative. For example, people will use freedom of speech to cause violence, or they will express their opinion but not in a proper manner. We start using it against each other to harm one another and make ourselves feel worthless, like our opinions don't matter. Secondly, if you live in the United States, technically you can't gain your freedom because you're born with it, thanks to our armed forces. That is the beauty of living in the United States, because in other places like Sudan, you have to gain your freedom, or you have less freedoms. For example, in Sudan, women can't wear pants because they can get arrested, sent to jail, or prison. But just like how you are given your freedoms, you can get them taken away by making poor choices, breaking a law, or committing a crime. Losing your freedom can also mean going to jail or prison and staying there for a long time. Sadly, this is the way many people go. They end up losing their freedom by doing something like breaking a law. I want to tell you something Martin Luther King Jr. said. He once said, "If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. But by all means, keep moving and don't stop." To me, this quote means maybe you're not capable of something, but there's always, I promise you this, there's always a different method to accomplish your goals. And that no matter what life throws at you, there's always a solution and a way to work around it. I just want all of you guys to remember that. Lastly, I want every single one of you guys, you, all of you guys, to think about how many freedoms we have. We have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom from bondage and slavery. We have all these freedoms and much more. But before we didn't. We had to go through war to have all the freedoms we have now. Many people lived through horrible treatment. They would get executed, punished, or they would be slaves because they were different, or because of their religion, race, and color. Thanks to our armed forces, now our differences make us unique and who we are. This is what freedom means to me, how it affects me and all of our daily routines. But just remember, never keep silent for what's right, because something else Martin Luther King Jr. said, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Thank you.
have something to say. Freedom. When the word freedom comes to mind, what do you think of? For kids, it may be using technology all day and not having to do any chores. But the word itself has a much deeper meaning that dates back to hundreds of years. Yet the true meaning of the word has never been solved. I think that freedom means the right and ability to be whatever you want, no matter your gender, your race, and not being treated differently because you look different from everyone else. According to the dictionary, freedom means the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. But shouldn't we also be free from constant judgment, being given labels based on our looks, and be free from the expectations others put for us? Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "I have a dream that my 4 little children will live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." Shouldn't we be allowed to be ourselves, or do we have to live these lives that other people have planned for us? You tell me. There are many types of freedoms, and each of us have different ones. Most of us are born with our freedoms, while others need to gain them by the choices they make. My mother had to gain the right to even live here by becoming a citizen. My dad, my sisters, and I were fortunate enough to be born here and have been safe from the constant fear of being deported. If you think about it, just being a kid in the United States is a privilege itself. I mean, we don't have to worry about being forced to marry at 14, of the fear of being sold, not being allowed to show skin, express your religion, and so many more dreadful things that aren't even on our minds. Did you know that in places such as Estonia, kids are getting married at 15, and in Nigeria, 72% of all marriages are child marriages? I already worry about what I'm going to wear the next day, let alone being married. We have so many privileges, yet we take every single one for granted. And once they're gone, that's when we regret it. The freedom of speech. Imagine not being able to speak up, let people know you believe in as I'm doing right now. The freedom of expression. How would life be if we couldn't express ourselves? Would we keep in every emotion, every feeling? The freedom of education, religion, voting, press. This list could go on and seem to never end. Now you can see how truly blessed each of us are, and we are completely unaware of it. Think again. These freedoms that have so easily been given to us can be gone like that. Most freedoms can be gained by making the right choices, following laws, just living life the way it was intended to be. But in the blink of an eye, all that can be changed. Just one wrong move, just one bad choice, and you can put everything in jeopardy. You being allowed to drive can be taken away. To vote, sometimes just to be with your loved ones, can be taken away like you never had it in the first place. So don't take anything you have for granted, because once it's gone, you rethink every moment over and over again, and it'll feel like you hit rock bottom. Everything you have is precious, even though at times it may not feel like it. Now on the other side of this all, yes, we have many freedoms, but there are still many changes that need to be enforced to ensure everyone's happiness in this world. In everyday situations, we see discrimination against people of color, yet many just stand there and watch. Even in history, we have seen black people be treated so unfairly for absolutely no reason. Is it because we don't look like you, merely because our skin is different? How would you feel if you were in our shoes? Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated because he told people he believed African Americans deserved. Rosa Parks was arrested because she didn't agree with the way her people were being treated and did something about it. Malcolm X was shot while talking about liberation for African Americans. We have heard of our ancestors picking cotton for hours of the day and being sold as if they were nothing. My own great-grandmother, Lula Henson, worked for 2 white families, and they fired her after they found out she started a business to earn money. Us African Americans have been through so much, yet we're still here, and it seems like we are still fighting for our equality. People seem to assume that black people are harmful and are always trying to do bad. But how are we any different from you? We're people, right? Freedom has many meanings and can be portrayed in different ways. But at the end of the day, we all need to learn to accept each other for who we are and to become better people as we watch our world evolve into a better place for all. Thank you.
number 6.
What does freedom mean to me? Have you ever been out on the streets with the boys and asked, what are the 5 freedoms listed in the First Amendment of the United States Constitution? Well, you wouldn't know now exactly, would you? We're not the only one. In fact, a survey was taken in 2006, and 1 out of 1,000 people did not know any of the freedoms. The funny thing is, during one experiment, more people knew at least one character from The Simpsons than any of the freedoms. Those freedoms that the people did not know were freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, and freedom of petition. We experience these freedoms on a daily basis without even thinking about it. The first freedom is freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is where people can say whatever they want, so as long as it doesn't ruin a person's character. For example, you may not like Trump, but that's just your opinion, and you have the right to say that. Unfortunately, in some countries, it is completely illegal to state that you dislike a ruler or president. One country where individuals' freedom of speech is prohibited is North Korea. The second freedom is freedom of press. Freedom of press is where people can report on any sort of news, so as long as it's true. For example, Trump threatens to nuke Iran. But if the people report fake news, like they think they're gonna die in 10 minutes and they're still alive, they can be punished for lying. That is why I do not want to be a news reporter. The third freedom is freedom of religion. Freedom of religion is where people can practice any sort of religion like Muslim, Buddhism, and Catholic, and go to any sort of church they like. Unfortunately, some countries may have you follow one religion only or none at all. Although some countries like China have changed the rules to say you can have 5 or more religions, but in one country, which is North Korea, leader Kim Jong-un thinks that all of them should just be banned. The fourth freedom is freedom of assembly. Freedom of assembly is where people can gather into groups and protest peacefully for, like, example, marches and protest. For example, another example is that people around the United States have been protesting that they do not want Trump to nuke Iran. They share their opinion on the topic peacefully, and they have the right to do this. In history, we have seen this happen with blacks and whites to end segregation for good. The last freedom is freedom of petition. Freedom of petition is where people can send the government a petition to change the rules or laws they have for the better. These freedoms were established during the American Revolution, which in my opinion was a good choice to establish them. As you can see, if we didn't have these freedoms in our country, it'd be a hard time to be alive. So, if you were out with the boys and someone came up to you and asked, what are the 5 freedoms listed in the First Amendment? Now you have an idea of what you can say. Also, if I was asked what freedom I cannot live without, it'd be freedom of speech. What freedom can you not live without? Thank you.
For speaker number 7.
The actual definition of the word freedom is the power or right to act, speak, or think without hindrance or restraint. But I have a different meaning. My definition of the word freedom is that everyone is created equal and should be treated the same way. If you're maybe a different color or race than the rest, that doesn't mean you necessarily have to act, treat, or be treated differently than others. Same goes with whatever language you speak. It all doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is how you treat others. If you were to treat people with respect and kindness, I think you're a good person. But if you were to treat people with disrespect and rudeness, then I won't think very highly of you. There are also many types of freedoms, and their names are actually very self-explanatory. Let's start with some simple freedoms like the freedom to be alive, freedom of belief, like if you were to believe in God, freedom from bondage and slavery, freedom of religion, and freedom of speech. There are also more uncommon freedoms to hear that are still pretty common, like the freedom to express oneself, freedom of the press, freedom to choose one's state of life, freedom of talking to each other, and freedom of association. After going over more of the important freedoms, let's go over some of those freedoms, and how I interpret those specific freedoms, and their origins too, starting with the freedom from bondage and slavery. During the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln was president, and he made a decision during the war to emancipate slavery. It actually ended up helping to win the war, and that pretty much started the freedom from bondage and slavery. My interpretation of freedom from bondage and slavery is that everyone is free from becoming a slave and is not bound to such control. Who else had important some freedom? Oh yeah, James Madison and the First Amendment. There he established our freedom of speech. My interpretation of freedom of speech is that anyone is allowed to speak and share whatever is truly on their mind. Like if they want to share their opinion on their favorite food or favorite animal, they can. And finally, there is freedom of belief, which was also established by James Madison and the First Amendment. My interpretation of freedom of belief is that anyone is allowed to believe in whoever and whatever they would like to. Freedom from bondage and slavery, freedom of belief, and freedom of speech are all very important freedoms to me. Freedom from bondage and slavery allows everyone to be equal and allows me to meet people different from myself. Freedom of speech allows me to speak and share whatever is truly on my mind. Like if something is troubling me, I can say whatever is troubling me. And freedom of belief allows me to believe in whoever and whatever I would like to. Like if I believe in God, Buddha, or even an Egyptian god. These freedoms are all very important to me because they allow me to express myself, meet new people, and believe in whoever and whatever I would like to. And may I add, of all the freedoms, remember, you, and even I, we have a choice, and it is right to embrace it with love, dignity, and respect. Thank you.
Thanks for your patience, everybody. Probably wait in between to give judges plenty of time to think and score. It's important. Okay. So we're ready for speaker number 8.
Freedom. Why do we wish for freedom? Why is it important? Why do we try so hard to get freedom? From the beginning of time, people have fought all their life for rights. Rights to love who they want, rights to do what they want, rights to be treated how others are treated. Even if people don't realize it, freedom is all around us, from our everyday life to the choices we are allowed to make. People like MLK Jr., Gloria Steinem, and Hauke have all fought for different types of freedom. These individuals felt the need to say something about the injustice they saw and felt. MLK Jr. fought for people with darker skin. Gloria Steinem fought for females. Hauke fought for the LGBT community. All the communities mentioned were once seen as freaky, lower in rank, weak, and even now, there still exist stereotypes. The importance of freedom is far beyond anything else, because life without liberty is like a body without a spirit, as stated from Kellen Bergen. All over the world, people have bended over backwards to get the freedom they want. As intelligent beings, we have always felt the need to have that freedom. Now, I want you all to imagine you are living in a small town, but in this town, everyone knew everyone. You've lived in this town for 4 years. Your home was a one-story house, small, but everything was the way you wanted, even to the tiniest little detail. Your job wasn't the greatest, but you loved it either way. Slowly but surely, people started to distance themselves from you. You felt confused, anger, and betrayed all at the same time. Even the person who you loved and cared the most left you. After time passed, signs started going up in hotels, jobs, and in restaurants. They all said the exact same thing, that your specific gender or race weren't allowed. The next day, you were fired from your job for the same exact reason. What would you feel? Would you feel anger, sorrow, rejected, isolated? Now take all these emotions, times them by 2, and put them in the people who have experienced this. That's how MLK Jr., Gloria Steinem, and Hauke most likely felt. They wanted freedom. Freedom from the judgment of people, the right to be themselves. On the short time I've been on this planet, breathing, I've seen so many people fight for what they want and get discouraged. Every single time I see someone trying to prevent or say foul things to a specific community, I feel anger and disgust slowly building inside of me for that person. And I think, why even say anything when it's their right and freedom to do what they want? I, myself, being a female, have experienced this. People put limits and expectations on us. When people speak those limits, I try so hard to exceed them. But I know people who say nothing, do nothing, walk away, and even accept them because they're too scared of what others will think. I have one thing to say to those people. It's okay to be who you are. Do what you love, be what you want to be, and never put those limits and expectations on yourself. Because that's what freedom is all about. Thank you.
Speaker number 9 will take the stage.
Before I begin, let me ask you a couple questions. Did you know that 1/3 of the southern population was used as slaves? Isn't it sad that some places are not allowed to do anything that they want to do at all just because of how they look or act? Well, if you look closer, you'll notice that America was not the only country that had slavery and racism. You're probably wondering, what is he saying? but this is what I mean. My job is that I'm supposed to tell you what freedom means. You may not know what freedom means, but I will tell you in a bit. Right now, I will take you back in history, and I'll tell you the time of where not everyone didn't have freedom at all. Now, I want you to quickly imagine the punishment you would have if you did something wrong. Either you'll get a whipping, a pain from inhuman branding, or probably something worse. Now, imagine if you were taken away, like if you were abducted and forced to do whatever the people who took you away say. Nobody likes that, and not even to this day. Now that's why we have freedom. Alright, now I will tell you what freedom means. Freedom means the state of being free or at liberty rather than in a confinement or in a physical restraint. But what freedom means to me is that you have the right to do whatever you insist on doing. I have a question for you. Have any of you heard about the civil rights movement and slavery? Have any of you heard about any of these three activists I'm about to mention who participated in this? One of the activists was Martin Luther King Jr., and he was a leader and a fighter for having freedom for black people. On August 28, 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. gave a speech that was named the I Have a Dream speech that was very famous around the whole U.S. His dream was to live a life where black people and white people can join together as one and can live a perfect life. Sadly, he did not live to see it. On April 4, 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. The second activist I am mentioning is Harriet Tubman. During slavery, Harriet Tubman helped free slaves by taking a path called the Underground Railroad. It's like saying, come with me if you want to live. Just like, how the Terminator said in the movies. But instead of dying, you are able to live the life you have always wanted. Harriet Tubman did this so that every black person who is under slavery can be free and can live a good life without doing anything a white person tells them to do. The last activist I am mentioning is Rosa Parks. When slavery ended, something very rude that came to black people was racism, and that came across everyone who was black. White people would call them names and make fun of them just because of their race. They even put in the Jim Crow laws and segregation just to separate the whites and the blacks. On the bus, Rosa Parks didn't like that. All the black people were sitting in the back, and the white people were sitting in front, as usual. She stood up, went in the front of the bus, and sat down where all the white people were sitting. She didn't care what black people thought of racism. She wanted to show that black people can fight for their freedom by not giving up her seat for a white man. And yes, she got arrested several times, but she didn't stop. She kept fighting. She was doing this for her life, for her freedom, to stop racism and for once in a lifetime be free. And yes, I'm talking about black people instead of any other. But looking through the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks seem very famous during it, and so has Harriet Tubman throughout slavery. And I thought of putting it in my speech to give it to you. To end with, everyone that is either here or around the whole world has probably faced something like this. Not being able to be free. Forced to do stuff they didn't want to do. Getting beaten up if it is something that is against the people. To everyone and to me, that is not freedom at all. Remember the three activists I just mentioned a bit earlier ago? Well, what if one of them was you? Fighting for your life. Fighting for your freedom. To live the life that doesn't include anything that could take it away from you. And also fighting for your family so that they could have the same rights as you and as other people. You could get anything you want, but that is if you work hard for it. And that is what Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and Harriet Tubman did. Freedom can mean many things throughout this world, but most importantly, what does freedom mean to you? Thank you.
The freedom of education is a lifestyle that our ancestors have been striving for and dying for years. Our world's freedom is slipping away from our grasp. We are all striving for freedom. We are all losing it as well. Freedom means that you can act or change without constraint. America is probably one of the luckiest countries in the world, or is it? On one hand, there are countries that have an upgrade from our American education system. Countries such as Japan, Korea, and even China all top above our education system. On the other side of the spectrum, there are countries that have a downgrade from our American education system. Citizens in countries such as Pakistan, Guinea, Ethiopia, and the Central African Republic are all prevented from going to school for dreaded reasons. Reasons such as child marriage, young motherhood, trafficking, labor, and even the lack of sanitary cancel out the opportunity for a child to go to school. How do we know a kid's level of skill unless they have an opportunity to use them? However, on the bright side, there is a ray of hope for these countries. The rates of enrollment have gone up these past few years, but not enough to really make a significant difference. The rush of adrenaline and honor to step foot into a school that children once had is fading away. Kids are passing chances to learn social skills and even get into college. Not only does education give us a chance to take our lives into our own hands, it also gives us an opportunity to learn how to be responsible. Nevertheless, do we really have the true definition of the freedom of education? In school, we are forced to learn about subjects. We are forced to stay on the same path as others by staying at the same level. At this point, is it really a requirement or is it just a restriction? Now, why is this topic so important to me? The freedom of education impacted on an incredibly important figure to me, which I love dearly, my mother. When my mother was young, not only was she a female, which gave her an even harder time finding an education, she was born into a family where they barely had enough money to feed any of their starving children. Every day, she would gaze outside at the other children with admiration. She loved dreaming of how she could wear pearly white traditional dresses and have a tidy straw sash around her as she walked home from school. And let me tell you, my mother pitied being so helpless. She might have been poor, but she still had the freedom of education. One day, her aunt, who was more fortunate than the rest of her family, came across her studying. Her aunt pitied how such a bright girl's opportunity of education was like a diamond in the rough. The next day, a miracle occurred, but at a price. Her aunt offered to take her in and give her a genuine education. My mom would have to move thousands of miles away across the country to live with her. My mom quickly agreed, but her parents hesitated. Her dad was close to saying no, until her mother finally convinced him to let her go. The freedom of education is not just a chance. It is an opportunity to improve and train the minds of the young for what will happen in the real world. As Nelson Mandela once said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world.
freedom, libertad, free hit, ascatas una. As you can tell, freedom is said in many different languages. This also means that it could mean multiple things to numerous people. To me, when I heard this topic, many thoughts ran through my head. But then I thought, freedom doesn't just mean one thing. It can be interpreted in many different ways. And when I say this, I don't just mean the type of freedom of getting to do whatever you want after you're finished doing a chore. I mean the type of freedom that stands for equal opportunities and liberty. With that said, keep in mind how freedom has changed over time and how it's evolved. I'm not sure if you all know what the 4 freedoms that Franklin Delano Roosevelt involved in one of his speeches are, but they are freedom of speech, worship, want, and fear. And these are very important because when someone talks about freedom of speech, they don't mean getting to say random things, they mean having a voice and getting to speak your mind. And when someone talks about freedom of worship or want, by worship, they mean having the rights to worship a religion or being able to worship a candidate who runs for president. And when someone talks about freedom of want, they mean having the rights to want someone to run for office or something similar to that. Finally, when someone talks about freedom of fear, they mean having the rights to be afraid of things that happen in our country, such as war. And as Franklin Delano Roosevelt, also known as FDR, once said, freedom cannot be bestowed, it must be achieved. What he means by that is that freedom isn't just given to people like candy on Halloween. It's a privilege, and we should be incredibly lucky that our country has freedom. To continue, freedom is very important to me because it gives us a sense of ownership, and it lets U.S. citizens, such as myself, express their opinions and ideas. It also benefits us as a country. It benefits us as a country because before, women didn't have the right to vote, nor did African Americans. And they had it worse because not only did they not have the right to vote, but they didn't have the right to do a lot of things. And because of that, there was segregation. And that didn't seem really fair to them. But luckily, now they have more rights and freedom than ever. But when they first got their rights, not a lot of people wanted them to have rights. But as Abraham Lincoln once said, those who deny freedom for others deserve it not for themselves. Finally, I'm sure you all know that many people fought for freedom. This is very important to me because it shows that many people wanted equal opportunities. One person who fought very hard for equal opportunities was Martin Luther King Jr., MLK. MLK did a lot of great acts such as give speeches. One speech he gave was the I Have a Dream speech. He also led many civil rights activities. Another person who fought very hard for equal opportunities was Rosa Parks. She did many impactful acts such as have a big role in the Montgomery bus boycott. Finally, Susan B. Anthony was another great impact because not only was she a social reformer, but she was also a women's rights activist. She did many great acts such as have a pivotal role in the women's suffrage movement in its early phase, and she also founded the National Women's Suffrage Association. To restate the question I asked earlier about how freedom reconstructed over time, we still have a long way to go. Although this may be the end of my speech, it's not the end, but the beginning of our way to a world where the United States is full of diversity and where people won't feel how they felt many, many years ago. Thank you.
Okay, we are ready for speaker number 12, our last speaker of the day.
What freedom means to me. Do you know what freedom means? The definition of freedom is the ability to act or do something as desired. To me, freedom means is to think, speak, or act without breaking the law or harming others. Freedom means several different things to each human being. The 4 freedoms that are the most important to me are the freedom of expression, speech, choice, and worship. Freedom to me means freedom of expression. This means that we are free to express ourselves. However, we do it without causing a fight or distraction to others. Externally, I can be free to express myself with how I speak, act, or dress. Internal freedom makes it okay to feel happy, sad, or lonely. To me, expressing myself in my own way is freedom. Freedom to me means freedom of speech. This means that we have the right to speak our minds and say what we feel. However, I believe that we should speak and not harm others. In some countries, people are not allowed to say anything negative about their country or leader. They will be arrested and punished because they do not have the freedom to speak what they think. Freedom to me means freedom of choice. This means that in America, we are free to make different decisions and preferences. Additionally, the freedom of choice in America allows us to vote and choose our leaders and laws. However, not all countries have this freedom. In North Korea, they are not allowed to do things like reading other books, unless their government tells them to. I'm indebted to be free to read any books from any libraries. We are free to make choices that make us happy. True freedom to me is sketching and doing martial arts. Freedom to me means freedom of worship. This means that we are free to believe in any religion. I am free to choose my very own religion. The government will not punish me for my beliefs. I am appreciative for the privilege of worship. Although each individual sees freedom in multiple ways, it is valuable to them. Freedom is as important as food and shelter. Without it, I would find my life to be less satisfying. Freedom is an important privilege to be thankful for. Thank you.
Wow, let's give everybody another round of applause. They were amazing. What we're going to do right now, our judges are going to go to room 3 to take a break. And I thought I would give us a quick 5-minute break right now if anybody wants to get a drink of water or use the restroom. But come right back. Watch out for the cords. Come right back because then I'll have you introduce yourselves. I thought your speech was riveting. I was really intrigued by it. It was very riveting. Yes.
have them pass it, because there might be like a lot of like, because it's like a shotgun mic, so it's like, should we switch it for the?
I don't think I have it.
Okay.
So,
Should we just speak loudly?
no, you don't need
You want me to hold it?
Yeah, just,
Okay.
you can, yeah, I wouldn't worry about
Okay.
it, 'cause you never
Oh,
know when you might get it
I
back. Yeah.
I hold it.
So
Got it.
where are you from? What school are you from? Where are you in? And what's your name?
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sometimes if you give it to them, then like, and then this
Okay.
And you gotta hold it like not super close, but
Because it's a shot mic. Okay.
yeah. Great job.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think this is a really good idea that you want to too. 'Cause
Yeah.
you've never done it before.
Well, to me, it seemed because the quiet was so. Is this on right now? The quiet was very intense. So
Yeah.
We switched over between 2 and 8 and now we're up to and it typically is only from classrooms to the park.
yeah. Oh, I loved it. I was very intrigued by it. I made it through. To reveal their identity, say who they are and where they are from, and then also tell us who came with you today. And if we would like to do more photos, we're welcome to do photos at this time. And let me just see. Mr. Brooks, is this okay or am I too close? Okay. So we're going to watch out for this chord. How about today we start with 12 and go down to 1. So speaker number 12, if you'd like to come up here, come on up. You can stand right here. So why don't you tell us your name and what school you're from?
Hello, everyone. My name is Shekinah Tentado. You may call me Sky. And the supporters who came with me today are my friend Liliana, my advisor, Mr. Beeson, my teacher, Ms. Hodges, my mom, my dad, my aunt, and my grandma.
And what school are you from?
Westmont.
You're from Westmont. Would the supporters like to come up for a photo? Come on. You want to do a quick selfie? Would you like me to take pictures? Sure. Okay. Thank you. Okay, everybody squeeze in. Okay. And 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. What a nice
Thank you
group.
so much.
Very nice. Good job. Okay. And speaker number 2, come on. I'm sorry, number 11. We're going backwards. Okay, let's wait until we have everyone seated. Okay.
Okay, my name is Zayani Para, and I'm from Orange Grove Elementary. And the people who came with me today is my vice principal, Miss Bartoldas, and one of my best friends, Yvette Mateo. Can I give a shout out to my teacher?
Absolutely.
And I want to give some shout outs. I want to give a shout out to my teacher. Hi, Miss Harrison. And then I want to give a shout out to all my friends who are watching this. They were supporting me a lot. And then I want to give a shout out to my older sister, my little brother, my 2 older brothers, and my mom.
Okay.
It's because of them I'm here.
Okay, supporters, would you like to come on down? Do you want to come towards the center so we can get the stage behind you? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Oh. 1, 2, 3. Okay, great. And we thank Mrs. Bartoldas for braving the bus. I heard buses make her a little car sick. So, good job. So we have 12, 11, 10. Speaker number 10, come on up. Okay.
Hi, my name's Amy Pham. I'm from Lawera, and I'm here with my classmates. There's a bunch of them.
Okay.
My teacher, my vice principal, and my principal. So,
Do you want to? Okay. Everyone, come on down. They have the home court advantage.
You do. That's a representation here.
So can we squeeze in together? Okay, I can. Let's see if I can fit everybody in. Oh yeah.
We got to be for it.
This is a
Yes.
nice lens here. 1, 2, 3. And I'll get one just a little bit closer. Excuse me for crowding you. Very good.
Is that your phone?
Yeah.
Good phone.
That's a nice phone.
Yeah, this is a nice
Good.
phone.
Thank you. Speaker number 9.
Hello, my name is Ivan McGee. I'm from Gallo Elementary, and the supporters who came with me today is my vice principal, Mr. Costa, and my friend Taha.
You want a picture? Okay. Yeah. Okay. This angle okay? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, good job.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And speaker number 8.
My name is Angelica. I go to Ponderosa. I have my supporter Nathan and my vice principal.
What's your vice principal's name? Okay. You're gonna put your hands down. Okay. I'll do a close up. Let's see. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Very good. Yay, thank you. And speaker number 7.
Hello, my name is Jen McKell Arce. I am from Clara Barton Elementary, and my supporters today are my dad, my mom, my older sister, my teachers, Mrs. Optebeck and Mrs. Moore, and my principal, Mrs. Darash.
Would you like me to? Okay. Okay, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Very nice. That's a great picture. Very good. Okay, speaker number 6. We'll wait until everyone gets seated.
Oh. Hello, my name is Dan, and I am from Benito Juarez. The people who came to support me are my mom, my grandma, my teacher, Miss Morales, and my vice principal, Miss Dorothy.
Yes, they are.
If the people are still recording, shotmrbeast.com.
Thank you very much.
It's kind of exciting to be right. It is. 1, 2, 3. That's a great picture.
Okay, next we're okay, and speaker number 5. Wait, let's wait.
My name is Alea McGregor. I am from Thomas Jefferson Elementary School, and my supporters are my principal, Dr. Song, and my friend Cindy Nguyen.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, come on up. And number 4, speaker number 4.
Hi, my name is Giselle Bravo Martinez. I'm a 6th grader at James Gordon Elementary, and my supporters are my friend Sydney, my mom, and my vice principal, Mrs. Scott.
Who wants me to take pictures? Okay, thank you.
One, two, three.
And number 3, come on forward.
My name is Jonathan. I go to Ross, and the supporters that came with me are my dad, my mom, my teacher, Mrs. Fernandez, and my friend. Well, he knows who he is.
Would you like to come down and join Sure. I don't mind at all.
Sorry. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. These are really close up. Is there a way to?
Like it doesn't respond to. Okay, thank you. So,
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
very nice. Thank you. Speaker number 2.
My name is Om Gupta, and I attend Stoddard Elementary. Some supporters who are here with me today are my two friends, Aiden and Gia, and my teacher, Mr. Locke, and Vice Principal, Mr. Kelly.
All right. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Present yours. Sure. These pictures will all be worth it. 1, 2, 3. Speaker number 1. Sometimes it's the hardest to go first.
My name is Armando Perez. I'm from James Madison Elementary, and my supporters are my vice principal, Ms. Valencia, and my dad.
And your dad. Okay, great. Yeah, you did a great job. Thank you. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so our judges are not back yet, but I would like to recognize our special guests who are here today. So we have our superintendent, Dr. Christopher Downing. If you'd like to, okay, yeah. If you just want to stand up, yeah, that's perfect. Okay. And we have our school board member, Mr. Ryan Ruelas. Thank you for coming. And we have our assistant superintendent in the back, Dr. Grace. Thank you for coming. Okay. So, how about I ask you a couple of questions while we wait for our judges, because I'm curious. Let's see. Since our topic today was freedom, I want to know, what do you like to do with your freedom? What do you like to do in your free time? So think for a moment. What would you like to share that you do in your free time? I might ask everybody, okay? So have an idea ready in your head. Okay. I'm going to drag this over here. What do you like to do in your free time?
I like to play sports.
Can you say that louder for everybody?
I like to play sports.
What kind of sports do you play?
Soccer.
Are you on a team?
Yes.
Do you play on the team here in Anaheim with the after school? Wonderful. Very good. Very good.
I like playing video games.
What's your favorite game? Dare I ask?
No.
No? Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. What do you like to do with your free time?
Play video games.
You play video games too? Okay, great.
I will not.
I play instruments.
Okay, so can you kind of turn around and share? She said she plays instruments. What do you play?
I play the violin on my free time and the clarinet at school, and I do gymnastics.
And you do gymnastics. Do you compete in tournaments?
Not yet.
Gymnastics, that's great. I used to do that too. And Aaliyah, what do you like to do in your free time?
I play basketball.
Can everybody turn around?
I like to play basketball and take naps.
Are you in a league?
Yes.
What type of league are you in? What is it? Do you know what it's called, Mom?
I play basketball in OGP.
Okay.
It's at the American Sports Center.
Okay, great.
I like to watch YouTube. Also subscribe to PewDiePie.
Yes.
I like to sleep.
Oh no.
Best.
You like to sleep in your free time. What else? Give me one more thing.
It's really hard.
It's really hard. Okay, maybe I'll come back to you.
I like to read comics.
You like to read comics. So comics, paper?
Online.
Online comics. Okay, do you have an artist or a special comic strip that you follow?
I follow Week Hero.
Okay, so is it like wait, what is it called again?
Week Hero.
Oh, okay, good. What do you like to do in your free time?
In my free time, I just sleep, I guess.
Sleep. I have a feeling there's probably a lot more.
And I guess just play Minecraft.
Minecraft? Yeah, Minecraft's a good game.
I guess I just play piano and study.
Oh, okay, tell everybody. That's great. Those are great things.
I guess I just play piano and study like a regular Asian kid.
You play piano and study. And how long have you been playing the piano?
About 2 years.
2 years. That's good. That's great.
I like to read books and binge watch shows.
You read books. What's your favorite novel that you've read, either at
Novel?
school? Yeah, a chapter book. Like, what's one of your favorite books?
Series of unfortunate events.
Series of unfortunate events, she said. Yes.
I like to do taekwondo. It's a martial arts.
Did you hear that, everybody? Say it louder.
I like to do taekwondo.
And so I don't know anything about taekwondo. Do you get belts in taekwondo? You
it's
do.
a self-defense class.
Okay, self-defense. So have you moved up to certain levels?
Yes.
What's your level?
Purple belt.
Purple belt. Good for you. Very good. Okay. So our judges are in.
Congratulations to you all. You're all winners, okay? Thank you. Okay. Congratulations to you all for being here.
So, before we even talk about awards, I think every one of you are amazing, and I think you are all winners. And like I said the other day, I believe that there are probably many adults in here who have never done what you did, have had to memorize a speech and go up on stage and recite it. I think that is amazing, and it takes a lot of courage to be able to do that. And so already in my mind, I was really, really impressed. Weren't we impressed with their speeches?
Can I say one thing?
Absolutely.
And before we go on, please, let's recognize Mrs. Houston for her outstanding effort in coordinating the event and moderating. We truly appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I actually enjoyed this a lot. I
Good.
had a lot of fun this week. Okay, so we will start with our third place winner. And I'm looking at 2 sheets here with names. So our third place winner was speaker number 1 from Madison. From Madison. Armando Perez. Yeah, I'm going to stay up here. So we have, this is for you. Okay. Yeah, good job. Oh, sure. Okay, so I'm going to have you stand right over here. Okay, perfect. And so next, our second place winner is speaker number 4 from Gwen.
Very good. Congratulations to you. I'm gonna high five.
Good job. Do you want to do a picture?
Go over here.
Okay. Okay.
1, 2, 3. Thank
Excellent. Very, very good. Okay. Okay, that's heavy. Okay. And on to our first place winner is speaker number 5 from Jefferson, Aaliyah McGregor. Very, very good. Very good. Yeah, let's do some pictures.
I'll go in this side.
Okay. Okay, okay. Let's not lean against the stage.
1, 2, 3. Congratulations.
All right.
Awesome.
How about we have, stay up here. Let's have all the kids, everybody, all the students come forward for a picture. Let me just move it. I know, amazing. All of them. Okay, so why don't we do this? We'll have some of you come on this side over here. So how about 1, 2, 3? Amy over here. So, there, that's good. And then you can kind of come forward a little bit so we can squeeze and I can kind of go behind her shoulder. So we can kind of go up here, just so we can all fit in the picture, okay? We need Miss Elsa here to do all this.
Right.
And then, you can come a little bit forward, just so we can all fit. Try to switch that way. Okay.
Okay.
We have. Okay. I want you hiding back there. Okay. And I would like to thank our judges. We couldn't do this, of course, without judges. Thank you very much. And our families for coming and supporting our students, and our administrators for being here. Okay, very, very good. Does anybody want to say anything else? We're good?
I just want to say that my name is Mr. Rellis, and I'm on the Board of Trustees here, and I went to Benito Juarez, and I was having flashbacks because many, many years ago, I won this award. And it's a big deal because of the fact that now they can't get me to stop talking. So as a result, kudos to you. All of you rocked it. I was sitting there watching all of you, and all of you had such amazing qualities about you that honestly, all of you were just fantastic. So kudos to all of you for doing this.
And I just want to say, I know the entire district is watching, and every boy and girl who participated in this contest, even if you're not here today, you are a winner. We are proud of you. Again, this contest builds our confidence and allows you to do great things. So again, across the amazing AESD, we are proud of each and every one of you. And please, everybody, how about one more round of applause for
If you came on the bus, I arranged for the buses to be here at 10:40, so it's perfect. We have like 2 minutes. Who is, I need to know who is not going on the bus, just to make sure. And everybody else, thank you for coming. Who is not going on the bus? Anybody not going on the bus? You're not going on the bus? Okay, so not on bus. You're going with your parents? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Good job.